lives in a lovely neighborhood. If you live there, they say you're living good. Pretty lawns with fancy landscapes. She stares ahead with a blank gaze in her lovely neighborhood where the living is good.
Is good right here on KMET, and I'm your host, Marc Gertz, and this is Reverse Your Thinking. So hold on to your horses. We're going to reverse your thinking about a lot of things this afternoon. That music at the top of the show was the incomparable Angie Wells. Her new album, Truth Be Told, is making its way up the charts right now. It clocked in yesterday at number 37, and you heard it here first. So if you haven't heard her album, now's the time. You want to go out and get that and listen to Angie Wells with Truth Be Told. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today. We're going to get a little bit younger. A lot of our shows have been dealing with older adults, people aging in place, and today we're going to move into your 30s. All right. Today we're going to talk about travel. Today we're going to talk about how to put together a good life for yourself. For those of you that are into entertainment, if you are a little bit older, you may remember a movie from a few decades ago called The History of the World Part 1. The History of the World Part 1 by Mel Brooks. Hysterical film, really, really well done. At the end of that movie, they preview for the next one, The History of the World Part 2. But you have to understand that was 40 years ago. So for 40 years, everybody's been saying, Mel, when are you coming out with The History of the World Part 2? Well, some of you may know and some of you may not that The History of the World Part 2 just came out, not as a movie, but as a TV show. And to tell you the truth, there are some bits on it that are absolutely full tilt, hysterical. But why do I bring it up? I bring it up because there's a scene in the movie where Mel is playing Moses coming down from the mountain with the commandments. All right, and he's holding 3 tablets in his arms, and he says, "I have commandments for you from God, 15 commandments." And then he drops one and it cracks and he goes, "Oops, 10 commandments I have for you." Well, I've got 10 commandments for you today. I've got the 10 commandments for your 30s. The 10 commandments for your 30s. And that's what we're going to go over today. And the first commandment is when you get into your 30s, it's time to start advancing your career. Between that time that you got out of college or got out of high school and the time that you celebrate your 30th birthday, you've been developing some marketing skills. You've been developing some marketable skills with the education and the knowledge that you had going into that. Now, all of a sudden, you're what we like to call a commodity. All right. You're worth something. People are interested in you. Now's the time to start developing your marketable skills and to start applying those skills to increase your earnings. What you want to do when you enter your 30s, kiddos, is you want to start skyrocketing those earnings. Now's the time to take all of that education and all of that experience and put it together to profit and prosper with the best expert advice you can get. This is also the time when you want to start investing, when you want to start actually making some retirement plans. I know that might sound a little crazy in your early 30s, but yeah, you want to get started right about that point. Okay. You want to start looking at potential career paths. What are you going to do for the next 10 years or 15 years? You know, you want to look at the types of jobs and companies where you might fit and where you might also be happy, because experience has taught me that if you're not happy doing what you want to do, it's work. But if you're happy doing what you are doing professionally, it's not work. It's just fun. And this is not what we really want. We want to make life fun. And in your 30s is when you should really take off and start figuring out how to do that. The next thing you want to do in your 30s is you want to start rethinking your budget. the budget that you had in your 20s is very, very different. All right. Uh, maybe maybe you're still single in your 30s, maybe you aren't, but you established a budget in your 20s, and now that you're entering your 30s, you're going to make some serious changes, and you want to start reevaluating that budget and looking at it from a different point of view. You might need to cut spending in certain areas, and you might need to reallocate them elsewhere. A lot of people in their 30s, this is the period of time when they want to start having kids, and they have to start allocating for that too. And unfortunately, for most of us, that means you have to take things away from something else. Stay with us. We're going to be right back for commandment number 3. When we come back from this moment, you're listening to Reverse Your Thinking. Today, we're talking about reversing your thinking about your 30s, about how to plan starting in your 30s for the rest of your life. I know. Sounds boring. Sounds like it might be a pain in the neck. You want to stay in your 20s. You want to keep having fun. Well, you can keep having fun in your 30s. It just takes a little bit more planning. We're talking about the 10 commandments of your 30s. The second commandment we were talking about just before the break was rethinking your budget. The third commandment is adjusting your insurance coverage. Insurance coverage, I hear you say. Who has insurance in their 30s? Lots of people, and you should too, okay? As your assets grow, you need to protect them, and you need to look at those things. You need to look at, depending upon the type of occupation you have, you may be looking at different types of liability coverage. You may want to reassess life insurance, your home insurance, and your auto coverage. These things, once you put them in place, still need periodic review. You need to go over these things. Your circumstances change. The insurance company's circumstances change. Premiums change. Why should you throw money down the drain if you don't have to? For those of you that like to do this stuff online, as opposed to meeting with somebody, you can compare auto insurance rates at Insurance Web, INSWEB, and you can also compare at insurance.com. These are great places to compare auto insurance. As far as life insurance goes, you can check out AccuQuote, AccuQuote, AccuQuote. Good place to check on life insurance rates. If you're changing jobs in your early 30s, you also want to compare the benefits. This is a good time in your life to start looking for a financial advisor, someone who is knowledgeable in these things and can give you some additional advice, because all of the answers may be on the internet, but you have to know what the questions are before you can ask them. The fourth commandment of going into your 30s is paying off mortgage debt. Paying off mortgage debt. Let's talk about this for a moment. If you're entering your 30s with lots of credit card debt or personal loan debt, now's the time to take a deep breath and start reallocating funds to get rid of these things. This is money that you're never, ever going to get back. I don't know if any of you've noticed it, but since COVID, credit card rates have gone up. They weren't cheap before, 19%, 17%. Now they're in the 20s, 23, 25, 27, 29. These are really high interest rates, and this is money that you can never get back. In your 20s, you came up with some debt repayment plan, I hope, and you started paying off student debt, and you started eliminating credit card debt, and you put together a budget where you could pay off your credit cards every month and not have revolving balances. Now you have to stick with these things in your 30s if you weren't successful in getting them eliminated in your 20s. And the reason you want to do this is one reason, fun. Yeah, I know financial planners don't usually tell you that, but That's the reason you want to do these things, because every dollar that you're spending on consumer debt is a dollar that you can't save to have fun in the future, or that you can't spend now and have fun, or that you can't spend on your kids and have fun with them. So you need to eliminate your non-mortgage debt. One of the ways to do that is what we call with a waterfall. In other words, sit down, make a list of all of your consumer debt, and start paying the highest the highest interest rate debt off first. That's what you do. And then you go to the next. Okay. Commandment number 5, increase your emergency fund balance. You really need to increase your emergency fund balance. Financially, life is sort of like an accordion. All right. When an accordion is closed, it's tight. It has no flexibility, right? But if you open an accordion up, it's real flexible, right? It's real flexible. Budgets are like that too. You have to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. I know it's difficult. I know, especially in the last 3 or 4 years after COVID, all right, and what's been happening for the last 12 months. I'm not saying it's easy. But then again, you know what? The 10 commandments from Moses aren't easy either. These 10 commandments for your 30s, they're not necessarily easy, but they're worth doing. They really are worth doing. Increasing your emergency fund, allocating money, even if you do it in very, very small bits, a few dollars each week out of your paycheck, put it into a separate savings account. Open up a separate account that you don't go into. It's for emergencies. As your income and expenses go up, so should the amount you have in the fund. You're worried that all that liquid cash isn't compounding, or you might want to invest it in the stock market. Guess what? Get 3 to 6 months of earnings in a savings account, then start investing in the stock market. The 6th commandment, save at least 15% of your income for retirement. Yeah, you heard me. 15% of your income should be saved starting in your 30s for retirement. Why? Well, after we get to the next part of our show, I'm going to go over that with you, all right, at the end. But we've got an amazing guest coming right after this break. You're listening to Reverse Your Thinking. I'm your host, Marc Gertz. And welcome back to Reverse Your Thinking. I'm your host, Marc Gertz. And we've been talking today about budgeting. We've been talking today about the 10 commandments of your 30s. And I think that segues really well into our guest today, who is Lisa Penhart. She believes that travel is the one expense that actually makes you richer. Lisa is a travel agent of I can't even begin to explain to you how much she knows. I'm going to let her do that herself. All right. She's been doing this for an amazingly long period of time. She works with multi-generational families. She is involved in cruises. She's originally from Hawaii. She can tell you more things about Hawaii than maybe you even want to know. She is amazing at what she does. Nevertheless, there are people who swear that they would never, ever use a travel agent. And I really think that's a great place for us to start today. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us, what are some of the misconceptions about travel agents? What are some of the things that people say?
Well, just the other day, I was talking to someone, they asked me what I do. And I said, I'm a travel advisor or a travel agent. And they said, oh, who uses a travel agent? The internet's awesome. And I said, you would be surprised. we like to say the internet has lots of information, but your travel advisor has knowledge. You mentioned
Okay.
earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can go online, but you have to know what questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. What are some of the stereotypes about travel agents that you hear?
basically that we don't need them.
Okay.
Um, but I would say that by using a travel advisor, especially since the last 3 years of COVID,
Yeah.
the last 3 years have been interesting for us. And what do I want to say? There were a lot of people that were stuck because they didn't know, they bought travel, they
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what to do. And so having a travel advisor, it's like having someone have your back.
Okay.
We hold your hand, we give you peace of mind. So,
Okay.
and not everybody needs a travel advisor.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, I see you making a distinction between an agent and an advisor, and and the audience we're talking to, many of them have financial advisors, and they have wealth managers, and they have advisors for insurance, they have advisors for how to raise their kids, they have advisors for marriage and family therapy. All right.
Right.
And they don't think, they don't think anything of this. I mean, this is sort of natural that you have these people around you. um First of all, what's the difference in between an agent and an advisor when it comes to travel? And ultimately, what do you feel is the biggest advantage to working with a travel advisor on a regular basis instead of trying to do it yourself?
So for some people, they love doing it themselves. They love the adventure of doing it themselves.
Hmm.
And that's great. The difference between an advisor and an agent is really semantics. It's really kind of old school thinking of a travel agent, transactional. Travel
Okay.
agent, transactional. So travel advisor is somebody who takes you through the process from soup to nuts,
All right.
and make sure they're responsible for you, or
Okay.
they take responsibility for what you're experiencing. And that kind of leads into how we're very tied in with the Virtuoso network. Go
Okay,
ahead.
you're gonna need to explain that to us. Oh,
Right.
I have no idea what's the Virtuoso network.
Well, it's a secret society. No,
Ah,
it's
okay. It's got a special handshake.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's a network of travel agencies and suppliers across the globe,
Uh-huh.
that are vetted, and Virtuoso provides unique experiences, special
Mhm.
values, complimentary perks,
Okay.
and VIP treatment. So the way that it happens is you book with a Virtuoso advisor,
Hmm.
and because of our relationships with this community, I mean, and it's all over the world. I can email the sales manager at the Ritz-Carlton in Budapest and say, hey, my client needs this, or my client was there and this happened. How can we fix it?
Okay.
So this is somebody who actually cares. And because we have this relationship, so basically Virtuoso, it's a consortium, which means that that Virtuoso can negotiate with all the hotels, tour operators, tour companies, cruise lines, etc.,
Hmm.
to get us better pricing for our clients and also add those added value
Okay.
perks.
All right. Is it but it sounds to me like it's also a network that's going to dramatically enhance the experience. Yes?
Exactly.
Okay. So it's not so much what I'll call discount travel as much as it is getting more bang for your buck.
Exactly.
Okay. All
So
right.
if someone asks me, hey, Lisa, can you get me a slamming deal on something? I'll be like, no. I mean, but if they ask me, can you get me a great deal on Four Seasons Hotel, I will add value. The value is enhanced, as you
I see.
mentioned.
Okay. All right. Well, I can definitely see value in that. Is again, going back to the concept of advising. All right. Does this come into play when people don't also when people don't fully know where they want to go or what type of an experience they want?
Right.
Does that come into
So,
it as well?
yeah. So if someone says, oh, I want to go to Japan and I want it to be a really like great trip.
Uh-huh.
What's great to you, right? What's great to you and what's great to you is different. Um, luxury, we're talking about luxury travel.
Mm-hmm.
Luxury is personal. It's very personal
Mm-hmm.
for each
Mm-hmm.
person. Like one person's luxury is, Regent Seven Seas or explore, 5-6 star
Right.
hotel or cruise. And for someone else, it's like, oh, the best hamburger ever. So, right. It's like,
Okay. All right.
but the most value that a virtuoso advisor brings to their clients is when they're looking at the 5-star hotels, the more upscale
Mm-hmm.
types of suppliers.
I remember talking some years ago to a sales advisor in a Mercedes dealership. And one of the things he said to me was that from the time somebody walks in a dealership to the time that they make a decision to buy a Mercedes is usually about 6 months.
Wow.
And the reason that I bring that up is because it almost sounds similar in a way that, especially with our topic this week, talking about, the 10 commandments of being in your 30s and putting together a budget, it almost sounds like that if a couple wanted to put together a really, really nice trip, that might be something that they would come and sit down with you and talk about 6, 9, 12 months before they plan to do it. Is that sound about right?
That's great. However, lately, travel has changed so much. And
Yeah.
so I've been getting a lot of long-term planning, but then a lot of short-term planning as well.
Okay. All
But
right.
yes,
But do people come to you for long-term planning for vacations?
yes.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, are you able to help somebody better that way in terms of what you can get them if they're planning it, let's say 8 months out?
Typically.
Typically. Okay.
And there are early booking discounts
Uh-huh.
sometimes. But whatever it is, I'm going to get the best value for my client no matter what. So let's say that someone books a cruise now,
Right.
and then for next year, and let's say closer to that date, it's cheaper.
Uh-huh.
There's a discount. So I'm able to, again, as an advisor, I can go
Mm-hmm.
and talk to my business development manager at that cruise line and say, hey, they're not going to write my client a check and say, but they're going to
Right.
give added value. They're going to give maybe more shipboard credit that they can use like money on the ship.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
they'll make it good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In again, in financial planning, that industry is in a very interesting flux in the sense that there are There are financial planners that are compensated transactionally. In other words, when they sell you stock or insurance or something, they make a commission. And then there are financial planners that are fee-based, where they only get paid, they get paid by a fee. All right. Is there a similar thing going on in the travel business?
So how do we get paid, right?
I guess that's the question. Yeah. How do you get paid?
So we get paid based on commissions from, what we book,
Uh-huh.
and some are lower than others, some are higher. And usually once the person travels and they come back, and then it goes through all. However, good travel advisors, I want to say, they charge planning fees
Okay.
upfront,
Okay.
planning fees, because we really give hand-holding service. We really,
Mm-hmm.
and so we don't have time to, if someone's not serious about the trip,
Right.
then I really don't have the time to go and research and put stuff together. It takes time.
Sure.
And so giving them skin in the game is really, really helpful.
Well, that's not surprising in a way, because in many other aspects of people's lives, they don't think anything of paying, fees. I mean, attorneys charge $500 an hour.
Yeah.
And if you want to get a will drawn up and a trust, you're talking about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 or more. And these are all things that people routinely do, and fees they pay out. It is interesting, however, that when you talk about paying fees for things like planning for your retirement or planning for your death, people think nothing of it. But when you think about planning for your fun, nobody thinks in those terms. Nobody thinks in terms of a fee-based planning for fun type of situation.
I have to tell you that 90% of my clients they don't blink an eye. They understand it.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of it is because of COVID and what's happened. And so, and really, I can give you lots of stories of how clients have, while they're on their trip or after they've come back home, how I have stepped in and helped them. Like one of my clients, during COVID, they were traveling and they were getting on a ship, but they had to fly there first. Well, getting out of customs was this huge long line, and one of my favorite clients, and she texted me from Barbados, I think, and she said, there's a really long line here. I don't know if we're going to make the ship. And so I was able to talk to the ship and
Really
talk to the captain and said, hey, they're coming. So they didn't miss the boat per se.
Wow, that's actually pretty impressive, and that's not something that they could have done any other way.
No.
The internet wouldn't have done that for them.
They didn't know who to call. So
I understand. Okay, I get it.
There before, during, and after.
I hear you. All right.
Want to talk about? Go ahead.
No, you tell me. You tell me.
I want to talk about cruising.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Tell us about cruising.
So, well, I feel like, some of the people I talk to about cruising, or they're like, I want to go on this cruise, and then I have people that when I suggest a cruise, they're like, nah, I don't want to do a cruise. So, talk about reverse your thinking. There are so many cruise lines and more coming out now with more product as well, different ships that don't advertise to the general public. And
really,
so we have, there's probably 30 of them, and they each have their own personality, or they each have their own target market, I should say. So when you're on a
Okay.
cruise, you want to make sure that the people that are also on the cruise are your people,
Okay. Yeah.
and also a lot of them are staying overnight in destinations, or they're
Uh-huh.
staying longer, like they might leave at 10 p.m. or midnight. And so, people can get more of the feel of the destination.
Well, that's fascinating. That's fascinating because there are a lot of people that when they think of cruises, they think of old people.
And
Okay.
buffets
They think
and bustle.
buffets.
It's like lots of
Yeah,
people on
that's
long lines.
yeah,
No.
or they think of kids, running all over the ship and that type of thing. And therefore they don't have any interest. But what I'm hearing you say is that it's more like finding the right community to go
Yes,
to
the
go out in.
community.
Let's hold that thought. We're going to talk more about that. You're
Okay.
listening to Reverse Your Thinking with Marc Gertz and my guest Lisa Penhart, and we'll be right back after this. And welcome back to Reverse Your Thinking. I'm your host, Marc Gertz, and my guest today is travel advisor Lisa Penhart. And before the break, Lisa had started talking about cruise communities. Let's talk about that some more, Lisa. You said there are cruises that never even get advertised. How does all that work?
They rely a lot on travel advisors
Uh-huh.
to book them. But as far as cruise communities go, when I first started selling cruises, I was overwhelmed. Like, oh, there's so many different brands, and like, how do I know which one to suggest to my clients? So
Uh-huh.
you really learn what it's like to be on a ship. Like, if you're looking for a more fun cruise,
Yeah.
then, without kids running around, I would go on Virgin. If you want a more calm, there's lots of different cruise lines that you
Okay.
need to know, because I'm not going to put you on a cruise that you look around and you look at the people around you and you're like, oh, I can't relate to these people at all.
All right. Okay.
That's a
How,
big thing.
how do you do that as an advisor? I mean, is there a formula for figuring out where somebody's gonna fit in?
Um, Thank you. Well, there's a couple. Well, one is that you actually go on it and you experience it. I experience it for myself so that I know. But
Okay.
there's something called a crew to guest ratio. So you know what the service level is going to be, right? If that ratio is
Okay.
higher, there's more crew to guests on other ships, then it's going to be more of a luxury cruise. But also there's something called a passenger space ratio. So the higher that is, so you get the tonnage of the ship and you divide it by the maximum number of passengers, and you get that ratio. So obviously you would have more space on the ship, less crowded, right?
I see.
So that's another thing. And also, it's really great. I love the whole sustainability part of travel, regenerative travel. Explora Journeys is a brand new company connected with MSC Cruise Lines, which is a huge cargo and passenger company in
Okay.
Europe. But they have something called a see if I wrote it down. So they're very sustainable. They are RENA dolphin certified, meaning that they reduce their underwater noise. And, that's like something, who would never think of that? Besides all the other, smart heating and ventilation and state of
Sure.
the art, blah, blah, you know.
Okay. All right.
So I think I went off on a little tangent, but
No, it's all right. It's all right. So you said there are a lot of cruises that never get advertised, that people, when you say they don't get advertised, does that mean you might not be able to find them on the internet?
no, you can find them, but you, again,
But you have to know what you're looking at,
yeah.
type of thing. Okay.
And, you know, some people think that if they book it for themselves, even online, that they're getting a better deal. No.
Let's talk about that. All right. Um, other than the planning fee that you might charge to the client, is what they're paying for the trip pretty much the same as if they spend 3 days online trying to put all the pieces together themselves?
Thanks, Mark. Yes, and if anyone has recently gone online and to any cruise company, you know, trying to, it just takes you down a rabbit hole.
Right.
Not only that, not only the time thing, but we have added value. We can give you shipboard credit. We can do things that you never think of. Like if there's a group that's booked on the ship, and it doesn't even have to be a group of people that know each other, like we talked about infinity groups, you'll get the perks for that group.
Okay.
We can book you, we can do magic. Sometimes.
You can do magic.
I love it when my friends and family say, "Come on, Lisa, do your magic." I'm like, so
Okay.
you shouldn't have used that word.
Do you do some of your clients feel that way about you? Do you think that you do magic with travel? No, that's great. I mean, if you can.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you know,
things that are hidden from them that
things
they
that are
didn't
hidden
know
from, things that are
existed.
hidden from view that you can find. Well, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. You know, again, before you came on, we were talking about budgeting. We were talking, you know, particularly with 30-year-olds, people in their 30s, or headed into their 40s. If someone was going to start to plan for a trip, let's say a year from now, okay, what would you advise them would be the right amount of money to try to set aside for, I don't know, say 10 to 14 days of travel? Is there a sweet spot number?
Wow. There's a lot of depends. There are a
Okay,
lot of
I mean,
variables.
obviously there's a range. Okay, I understand that. But if we're talking something, you know, mid, you know, middle and up. Okay, I mean, like, where would you start? Where would you, in other words, I
Yeah.
don't even know if people do this anymore. There used to be things like vacation accounts. You went down to your savings, your credit union, you opened up a vacation account. Okay, what's a reasonable number for a husband and wife and one small kid to start putting away for a vacation account if they want to take a trip a year from now? Would you say?
Well, gosh, that's really hard, Mark. I also do want to say, because, you know, we're talking about luxury travel here. However, we also have access to travel tour wholesalers. So I put together a trip that had a car, a flight, and a hotel, and it was cheaper than what my client saw online just for the hotel.
Okay.
So we can do that as well.
Right.
But as far as a price tag, for 2
500
weeks,
a month, 1,000 a month to start setting away.
oh, no, that's a lot.
Oh, that's a lot. Oh, that's good. Okay. So, all right. So if somebody was putting away $100 a week, 150 a week, they could put something
Yeah,
nice together.
for a year.
Yeah, for a year.
Yeah, I do want to
7,500
say,
bucks.
I do
Yeah.
want to say that a lot of
The three.
financial advisors have told me that their clients have a line item for travel.
There you go. Okay, that's it. There you go. Lisa, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Lisa at coastlinetravel.com.
Okay. Great.
Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that.
Wonderful. You're listening to Reverse Your Thinking. I'm your host, Marc Gertz. This is my guest, Lisa Penhart. We'll be right back after this. And we're back. I'm your host, Marc Gertz. You're listening to Reverse Your Thinking. We are reversing your thinking this day about your 30s and about travel. Our guest, Lisa Penhart, just left. She was remarkable, gave an enormous amount of inside information. Hope you were listening really close while you're sitting in traffic and headed home this afternoon. As far as the 10 commandments of your 30s, before Lisa came on, we were talking about commandment number 6, which was to save at least 15% of your income for retirement. You know, one of the things that we talked to Lisa about was saving money for vacations, for fun, you know, and you have to balance these things out, because if you're in your 30s and you're saving 15% of your income for retirement, this is money that you're probably not going to start using for 30 years. In order to be able to keep something like that going, you've got to balance it out, and you got to be good to yourself, and you got to set aside some money for fun and for vacations and for working with Lisa on planning your travel. But the advice for saving for retirement is 15% of your income for retirement. And especially in the last year, lots of people are having problems with that, suffering from COVID and interest rate hikes and the cost of living going up. And I know it's tough. I'm not saying it isn't tough, but you really need in your 30s to start putting that money away and acting as if it does not exist. 65% of wealth today, of retirement wealth, is in real estate, not cash, not 401ks or IRAs or other types of investments. It's only in people's homes. And it's not enough. It's just not enough. So 15% of your income needs to be set aside. It's critical. And every time you get a raise, you need to bump up your nest egg contributions. You need to allocate money. You need to have a plan. You need to have advice. And that's another thing that I think is really important halfway through this list that you need to understand. You have to get advice. No one makes it out there alone. Not you, not me. You cannot expect to have all of the answers and all of the skill sets to be able to pull these things off sufficiently. You know, some people are really good at saving for these things, but they're miserable all the time. And some people are real happy-go-lucky and they end up with nothing. It's about finding balance in the middle, folks. Okay. Number 7, diversify and rebalance your investments. Just like we talked about earlier in the show, you have to rebalance your insurance. You have to diversify and rebalance your investments. There are lots of things that you can save money in. You need to examine which ones are available to you. Once you get into your 30s and you have the basics, such as an emergency fund and other necessities, you can take on more risk overall. This is what Erin Bauer, the author of Growing Up and Saving Up, says. He recommends sticking with mutual funds and exchange traded funds. Doesn't matter what it is. The point is, you need to diversify. You need to re-examine where you're going to save, how you're going to invest. These are critical things in your 30s, because before you know it, You're going to be in your 50s and you're going to be running out of time. The eighth commandment of your 30s, of the eighth financial commandment of your 30s, monitor and improve your credit. Maybe you had some trouble in your 20s. Maybe you were late on some payments. Maybe it got even worse. Maybe you defaulted. Maybe you stopped paying your student loans. Maybe you even had to go into a bankruptcy. I don't know what it is. All right. I'll tell you what I do know. Bad things happen to good people who don't plan. Now that you're in your 30s, you need to monitor and improve your credit. You need to check your credit report once a year. And you can do this free at annualcreditreport.com. Write this down, annualcreditreport.com. Unless you're driving, of course, don't write it down. All right, just remember it. Or you're at a stoplight. You can check your credit once a year on annualcreditreport.com, and it's not going to cost you a dime. You can also dispute errors on your credit reports. You can contact credit bureaus directly. There are also companies that can help you clean up your credit. Number 9, getting close to the end here. The 9th commandment for your 30s, write a will. I know that's scary. When we write a will, we have to contemplate our own death. Not something that most of us really want to spend a lot of time doing. But like I said before, bad things happen to good people. People get hit by cars. People get sick, right? People have accidents. You need to get a will. Get an attorney, somebody you're comfortable with, get a referral from somebody you trust, and get that will written. All right. And number 10, and in some ways, this may actually be the most important of these 10 commandments. It's even in Old English. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's stuff. Don't get caught up, all right, in competition with the Joneses, as we used to call it. Don't start buying things just for the sake of being able to say you have more stuff than the next guy. All right. Hold on to your cash, make your plans, follow your 10 commandments, make it out of your 30s into your 40s in great shape. My name's Marc Gertz. You've been listening to Reverse Your Thinking. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Take care.
Where the living is good.